I'll never forget the moment I walked into that ballroom and felt every pair of eyes burning into my skin like hot coals.
My name is Grace Morrison. Well, Grace Whitmore now. And that night at the Metropolitan Charity Gala changed everything. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began. Because you need to understand how a girl from the Bronx ended up married to one of New York's most powerful billionaires, and why his world wanted nothing more than to destroy me. I was 42 years old when this happened, but I felt ancient that evening. 6 months earlier, I had been working double shifts at St. Mary's Hospital as a nurse, coming home to my small apartment with aching feet and a grateful heart. I wasn't rich. I wasn't glamorous. But I was proud of the life I'd built with my own 2 hands. That's where I met Alexander Whitmore, not at some fancy party or exclusive club. He came into the emergency room at 3 a.m. with chest pains, terrified and alone. His driver had brought him, but the man disappeared the moment we wheeled Alex through those doors. I held his hand while we ran tests. I talked to him about everything and nothing. My mama's recipe for sweet potato pie, the way the city looks at dawn, how fear makes us all equal. It wasn't a heart attack. Panic attack, the doctor said. Stress. The man who owned half of Manhattan's real estate was drowning in anxiety, and nobody in his gilded world had noticed or cared. He came back the next week, not as a patient. He waited for my shift to end and asked if he could buy me coffee. I said no. He came back again, and again. On the 4th visit, I finally said yes, mostly because I was tired of him cluttering up our waiting room. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly means more than you can imagine. That coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long walks through Central Park. Within 3 months, Alexander asked me to marry him. I thought he was crazy. A black nurse from the Bronx and a white billionaire? The world would eat us alive. But what I discovered that night at the gala, it would prove I was right to be afraid. Alex's family didn't attend our wedding. Neither did his business partners or his society friends. It was just us, my mama, my sister Jasmine, and a judge at City Hall on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I wore a simple cream dress from Macy's. Alex wore a suit that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Mama cried the whole time, and I couldn't tell if they were happy tears or worried ones. "Baby girl," she whispered to me afterward, "love is beautiful, but the world is cruel. You be careful." I should have listened to her warning. I should have paid attention to the way Alex's mother, Patricia Whitmore, looked at me the one time we met before the wedding. Like I was something dirty that had attached itself to her son's shoe. But I was in love. And love, I learned, can make you blind to the knives being sharpened in the shadows. The first 6 months of our marriage were like living in a dream. Alex bought us a penthouse overlooking the park, with floor-to-ceiling windows and more rooms than I knew what to do with. I kept working at the hospital, though. I needed to. Those people needed me. And more than that, I needed to remember who I was. Grace Morrison didn't disappear just because she became Grace Whitmore. But Alex's world kept pressing in, demanding entrance. Business dinners where I was the only black face in the room. Charity events where women in diamonds looked through me like I was invisible. Country club lunches where conversations stopped the moment I approached. "They'll warm up to you," Alex kept saying. "They just need time." Time. As if time could cure prejudice. As if time could make them see me as something other than the interloper who had trapped their golden boy. The Metropolitan Charity Gala was supposed to be different. Patricia Whitmore herself had insisted we attend. "It's time for Grace to be properly introduced to society," she told Alex over the phone. I heard the ice in her voice even from across the room. Alex was thrilled. "You see, Mother's trying. She wants you to be part of the family." I wasn't so sure. Something in my gut twisted with warning. The same instinct that had kept me safe growing up in the Bronx. The same feeling that told you when to cross the street or which subway car to avoid. But I pushed it down. I wanted to believe. I wanted this to work. I spent 2 weeks preparing for that gala. I found a stunning burgundy gown that made me feel like royalty. I practiced my small talk. I read up on all the charitable causes that would be discussed. I was ready to prove I belonged in Alex's world. But what I didn't know was that Patricia had been preparing too. And her plans had nothing to do with welcoming me into the family. The night of the gala arrived cold and clear. January in New York has a way of cutting right through you, and even wrapped in my evening coat, I shivered as we pulled up to the Plaza Hotel. Flashbulbs exploded. Photographers shouted Alex's name. I felt his hand tighten around mine. "You look absolutely beautiful," he whispered. "They're going to love you." I forced a smile, but my stomach was churning. Through the car window, I could see them, the cream of New York society, dripping in jewels and judgment, waiting to dissect the billionaire's unsuitable wife. The moment we stepped into that ballroom, I knew Mama had been right to worry. Conversations didn't just pause, they stopped dead. A woman in a white gown and emeralds actually gasped. Another turned her back so deliberately it was like a slap. The chandeliers blazed overhead, reflecting off champagne glasses and cold eyes, and I felt every inch of my brown skin like a brand. Alex felt it too. His jaw tightened. "Ignore them," he muttered. "But how do you ignore an entire room rejecting you?" Patricia Whitmore held court near the far end of the ballroom, surrounded by her circle of society matrons, women who'd known each other since boarding school, who summered in the Hamptons and wintered in Palm Beach, whose families had been wealthy since before the Civil War. She saw us approaching and smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Alexander, darling." She offered her cheek for him to kiss, then turned to me with that same cold smile. "Grace, how nice of you to come." "Thank you for inviting us, Patricia." I kept my voice steady, professional. The same voice I used when dealing with difficult patients. Oh, I wouldn't miss it. Something flickered in her expression. "After all, everyone's been dying to meet the woman who captured my son's heart. Haven't they, ladies?" The women around her laughed. It wasn't a kind sound. A silver-haired woman in sapphires stepped forward. "Margaret Vanderburg. I'd learned from my research. Old money, older prejudices. Tell me, Grace, what is it you do? Before the marriage, I mean." "I'm a nurse. I still work at St. Mary's Hospital." "How noble?" Her tone made it sound like anything but, "Emergency room, isn't it? That must be so intense. All those people." The way she said, "those people," made my skin prickle. "It's rewarding work," I said carefully. "Helping people when they're most vulnerable." "I'm sure it is." Margaret's smile was razor sharp. "Though I imagine the emergency room in the Bronx is quite different from the world Alexander comes from. The cultural differences must be challenging." There it was, dressed up in polite words, but the message was clear. "You don't belong here." Alex's hand found the small of my back. Grace handles everything with remarkable grace. No pun intended. She's the strongest woman I know. Patricia's laugh was like breaking glass. "Strength. Yes, I suppose one needs that, coming from such different backgrounds." She paused, letting the word hang in the air like smoke. "Tell me, Grace, do you find our world terribly intimidating? All these traditions and expectations?" I felt the trap closing. Every word I said would be examined, twisted, used against me. But I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. "I find that kindness and integrity matter more than tradition," I said quietly. "And those qualities exist everywhere. Or they should." The temperature in our little circle dropped another 10 degrees. "How philosophical," Margaret murmured. "Though I wonder if philosophy pays the bills quite as well as, say, marrying well does." Alex's face flushed red. "That's enough." "Oh, Alexander, don't be so sensitive." Patricia waved her hand dismissively. "We're just getting to know Grace. After all, she appeared so suddenly in your life. 6 months from meeting to marriage. It's natural for people to be curious about such a whirlwind romance." The implication was clear. Gold digger. Those 2 words hung unspoken but understood by everyone in the circle. My face burned, but I held my head high. I'd dealt with worse in my life. I'd been underestimated before, dismissed before, judged before. But this was different. This was the man I loved watching his family try to destroy me in public, and being unable to stop it. "If you'll excuse me," I said softly. "I need some air." I turned to leave, but Patricia's voice stopped me. "Oh, Grace, before you go, we're about to begin the speeches. The ambassador from France is here tonight, and we'll be hearing from representatives from Italy, Spain, Germany, and Japan as well. Such a wonderfully international event. I do hope you won't feel too out of place. The conversation can get rather sophisticated." There was that word again. Sophisticated. Another way of saying, you're not educated enough, cultured enough, good enough for us. Alex looked like he wanted to throw something. Mother? It's fine, I interrupted. I squeezed his hand. I'll be fine. But I wasn't fine. As I walked away from that circle of vipers, I felt tears prickling behind my eyes. Not because their words hurt, though they did, but because I saw the truth clearly now. Patricia hadn't invited me here to welcome me. She'd invited me to humiliate me, to show Alex and everyone else that I didn't belong in their world. What I didn't know yet was that Patricia's plan was far more elaborate than simple insults. And in less than an hour, everything was about to explode. I found refuge in the ladies' lounge, a palatial room with velvet sofas and gilded mirrors. My hands shook as I touched up my lipstick, trying to compose myself. The face staring back at me looked calm, controlled. But inside, I was falling apart. Don't let them see you cry, I whispered to my reflection. Mama didn't raise no quitter. The door opened and Jasmine rushed in, my baby sister, who'd insisted on coming tonight even though she hated these fancy events. She was wearing a beautiful black dress we'd found at a consignment shop, her natural hair wrapped in an elegant updo. Grace, she grabbed my shoulders. I just heard what Patricia said to you. That evil witch. Jazz, not here. I glanced toward the stalls, making sure we were alone. No, I'm serious. I wanted to throw my champagne in her face. How dare she treat you like that? You're twice the woman she'll ever be. I hugged my sister tight, drawing strength from her fierce loyalty. Jasmine had always been my defender, ever since we were kids sharing a bedroom in our mama's small apartment. She didn't care about money or status. She cared about right and wrong. I can handle Patricia, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. It's just words. Words hurt, Gracie, and that woman knows exactly where to aim them. Jasmine pulled back, studying my face. You don't have to stay. We can leave right now. Alex would understand. For a moment, I was tempted. So tempted. To walk out of this glittering prison, go home, and pretend none of this mattered. But then I thought about what that would mean. I'd be proving Patricia right, that I couldn't handle Alex's world, that I didn't belong, that I was exactly what she thought I was, a poor girl who'd gotten in over her head. No, I said firmly. I'm staying. I'm going to sit through every speech, smile at every fake compliment, and show them I'm not going anywhere. Jasmine grinned. That's my sister. We walked back to the ballroom together, arms linked. The speeches had already started. A distinguished-looking man in a tuxedo stood at the podium, speaking in French about international cooperation and charitable giving. Most people in the room looked politely interested but clearly didn't understand a word. I found Alex at our assigned table. He jumped up when he saw me, concern etched on his face. Grace, I'm so sorry. Mother was completely out of line. It's okay, I said, even though it wasn't. Let's just enjoy the evening. But as I sat down, I noticed Patricia watching me from across the room. She was smiling, that same cold, calculating smile, and suddenly, I realized something that made my blood run cold. This wasn't over. The humiliation I'd experienced was just the appetizer. Patricia had something else planned. The French ambassador finished his speech to polite applause. Then came the Italian representative, speaking in rapid Italian about the importance of cultural exchange. Then the Spanish delegate, the German, each one taking their turn at the podium while the audience nodded along, pretending to understand more than they did. I watched Patricia. She kept glancing at me, then at the stage, then back at me. Anticipation radiated from her like heat. What was she waiting for? Then the master of ceremonies stepped to the microphone. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special surprise this evening. As many of you know, the Whitmore Foundation has been a longtime supporter of international education and cultural programs. In honor of that commitment, Patricia Whitmore has asked to say a few words. Alex stiffened beside me. I didn't know about this. My pulse quickened. Neither did I. Patricia glided to the stage in her champagne-colored gown, every inch the queen of New York society. The room erupted in applause, genuine, warm applause. These were her people. This was her kingdom. Thank you all for being here tonight, she began, her voice carrying effortlessly through the ballroom. As we celebrate another year of the Whitmore Foundation's work, I'm reminded of how important it is to preserve our traditions, our values, our way of life. Something in her emphasis on our made my stomach drop. Education is everything, Patricia continued. My late husband and I always believed that. We sent Alexander to the finest schools: Exeter, Yale, Harvard Business School. We exposed him to languages, cultures, the arts. We wanted him to be a citizen of the world. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room until it landed on me. Which is why I was so surprised when Alexander chose to marry someone with such a limited background. Someone who, despite her many virtues, simply hasn't had the advantages of proper education and refinement that we value in our circle. The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Alex shot to his feet. Mother, what are you doing? But Patricia wasn't finished. Now, I don't blame Grace for this. She came from very humble circumstances. A public school education, a nursing degree from a state college. Nothing wrong with that, of course. But it does create certain gaps in understanding. Cultural gaps. Educational gaps. My face burned with shame and rage. Around the room, people were staring at me, some with pity, some with satisfaction, all with judgment. Which brings me to tonight's theme: the importance of international education. Patricia smiled, and it was the cruelest expression I'd ever seen. Each of our speakers tonight shared their messages in their native languages. I wonder, Grace dear, did you understand any of them? The trap had been sprung. She'd orchestrated this entire evening to prove a point, that I was ignorant, unsophisticated, unworthy of being a Whitmore. But what Patricia didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Alex was halfway to the stage, fury radiating from every line of his body. This is completely inappropriate. I stood up. My legs felt like water, but I made them steady. Alex, it's okay. He turned to me, confusion and anger warring in his expression. Grace, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I looked directly at Patricia, who was still smiling that venomous smile. Your mother asked me a question. It would be rude not to answer. I walked toward the stage. Every eye in the ballroom followed me. Whispers erupted like wildfire. What is she doing? This is mortifying. Poor Alexander. Poor Alexander. Not poor Grace. Never poor Grace. I climbed the stairs to the stage, my burgundy gown swishing around my legs. Patricia's smile faltered slightly as I approached the microphone, but she recovered quickly. Grace, dear, you really don't need to embarrass yourself further. I took the microphone from the stand. My hands were steady now. The fear had burned away, replaced by something else. Something cold and sure. You asked if I understood the speeches tonight, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the sound system. The answer is yes. I understood every word. Patricia laughed, a light, dismissive sound. Grace, there's no shame in admitting. Le discours de l'ambassadeur français était particulièrement émouvant, I said, switching seamlessly to French. Il a parlé de comment elle, éducation peut construire des ponts entre les cultures, même quand les préjugés essayent de les détruire. The room gasped. Patricia's face went white. I continued, my French flawless, accent perfect. The French ambassador's speech was particularly moving. He spoke about how education can build bridges between cultures, even when prejudice tries to tear them down. I turned to face the crowd, no longer looking at Patricia. L'intervento dell'ambasciatore italiano, I switched to Italian, ha sottolineato l'importanza della compassione nel nostro lavoro di beneficenza. Ha detto che la vera ricchezza non si misura in dollari, ma in quanto aiutiamo gli altri. More gasps. People were standing now, leaning forward, unable to believe what they were hearing. The Italian ambassador emphasized the importance of compassion in our charitable work, I translated. He said true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in how much we help others. Patricia tried to interrupt. This is el representante español, I continued in perfect Spanish. Habló sobre cómo su organización ayuda a niños de comunidades pobres a acceder a la educación. Dijo que cada niño merece una oportunidad sin importar de dónde viene. My voice grew stronger with each word. The Spanish representative spoke about how his organization helps children from poor communities access education. He said every child deserves a chance, no matter where they come from. I switched to German. Der deutsche Vertreter sprach über die Kraft der Bildung Barrieren zu überwinden. Then Japanese, Riben no daipyosha wa kyoyo ga jinsei wo kaneru rira ni tsuite hanashimashita. The ballroom had erupted. People were on their feet, applauding, shouting, but I wasn't done yet. I turned back to Patricia. She stood frozen on the stage, her face a mask of shock and humiliation. The woman who had orchestrated my public shaming was now experiencing her own. I switched back to English, my voice calm and measured. You asked about my education, Patricia. You assumed that because I grew up in the Bronx, because I went to public school, because my mother cleaned houses to put food on our table, that I was somehow less educated than you. The room was absolutely silent now. Even the waiters had stopped moving. What you didn't know, what you didn't bother to ask, is that my mother spoke Portuguese and Spanish. She taught me both before I was 5 years old. What you didn't know is that I had a scholarship to attend a magnet school for gifted students, where I learned French and German. I could see Alex's face in the crowd. Tears were streaming down his cheeks, pride and love and vindication all mixed together. What you didn't know, I continued, is that I spent a year in Japan as part of a nursing exchange program, working in hospitals in Tokyo and Osaka, learning the language because I wanted to better serve my patients. What you didn't know is that I've spent my entire life learning, growing, pushing myself, not because I wanted to fit into your world, but because I believe education is sacred. Patricia's carefully constructed composure had completely shattered. She looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. My mother used to tell me something, I said softly. She'd say, Mija, they can take away your money, your house, your possessions, but education, knowledge, that's yours forever. Nobody can take that from you. I looked out at the crowd. These wealthy, powerful people who had judged me on sight, who had assumed poverty meant ignorance, who had mistaken humble origins for inferior worth. So yes, Patricia, I understood every word of every speech tonight. I understood the French ambassador's call for unity, the Italian representative's message about compassion, the Spanish delegate's plea for educational equity, the German speaker's insights on breaking barriers, and the Japanese representative's beautiful words about transformation through learning. I set the microphone back in its stand. I also understood every insult you and your friends threw at me tonight, every dismissive comment, every cruel implication. I understood them in all 5 languages. The applause started slowly. 1 person clapping, then 2, then 10. Within seconds, the entire ballroom was on its feet, giving me a standing ovation. The sound was deafening, overwhelming, beautiful, but I didn't care about their applause. I cared about the look on Alex's face as he pushed through the crowd to reach me. I cared about Jasmine, who was jumping up and down, tears of joy streaming down her face. I cared about the truth that had finally been spoken. But even in that moment of triumph, I didn't realize that this night was far from over. Patricia wasn't done yet, and neither was I. Alex reached the stage and pulled me into his arms. Grace, he whispered against my hair. My God, why didn't you tell me? You never asked, I said simply. And it was true. In all our conversations, all our late-night talks, he'd never asked about my education beyond nursing school. He'd loved me for who I was in the present, never thinking to dig deeper into who I'd been, what I'd overcome, what I'd achieved. The crowd was still applauding, but I could see Patricia making her way toward us, her face a storm of emotions, rage, humiliation, and something else. Something almost like fear. The master of ceremonies rushed to the microphone, clearly trying to salvage the evening. What an incredible surprise. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it once more for Grace Whitmore. Fresh applause. But I noticed some faces in the crowd weren't clapping. Margaret Vanderberg stood with her arms crossed, her expression sour. A cluster of Patricia's closest friends huddled together, whispering urgently. Not everyone was happy about my vindication. Patricia reached us, grabbing Alex's arm. We need to talk. Now. In private. Anything you need to say, you can say in front of Grace, Alex said coldly. I'd never heard him use that tone with his mother before. Patricia's eyes flashed. Fine. This little performance was very impressive, Grace, very dramatic. But don't think for 1 second that speaking a few languages makes you suitable for this family. Mother? No, Alexander. Let me finish. Patricia's voice dropped to a harsh whisper, but I could hear every word. You want to know the truth? I invited Grace here tonight specifically to expose her, to show you and everyone else that she's not one of us, that she never will be. I know that, I said quietly. I've always known that. Patricia blinked, surprised. You think I didn't notice? I continued. The way your friends treated me? The way you looked at me like I was trash? I knew exactly what you were doing tonight. I knew it was a setup. Then why did you come? Patricia demanded. Because I love your son. I looked at Alex, seeing my whole future in his eyes. And because I'm not going to let your prejudice destroy what we have. Prejudice? Patricia's laugh was bitter. This isn't about prejudice. This is about protection. Alexander is a target. Everyone wants something from him. His money, his name, his connections. How do I know you're any different? The accusation stung, but I'd been expecting it. You don't, I said honestly. You can't know what's in my heart. But Alex does, and that's the only opinion that matters. Is it? Patricia turned to her son. Alexander, be reasonable. You barely knew this woman when you married her. 6 months. What if she's playing you? She's not. How can you be sure? Because, Alex said, his voice breaking slightly, Grace is the first person in my entire life who wanted me for me. Not my money, not my name, just me. Patricia's expression flickered. Pain, maybe, or recognition. For just a moment, I saw past her cruel exterior to something vulnerable underneath. A mother who'd watched her son grow up surrounded by sycophants and social climbers, who'd seen him used and manipulated, who was terrified of seeing him hurt again. But the moment passed quickly, and the steel returned. You're a fool, Alexander. Both of you are fools. She turned and walked away, her champagne gown swishing behind her. Her circle of friends immediately surrounded her, closing ranks, shooting hostile looks in our direction. Jasmine appeared at my elbow, practically vibrating with excitement. That was amazing. Did you see their faces? Grace, you absolutely destroyed her. Jazz? No. Seriously, you were like some kind of superhero up there. Boom. 5 languages. Take that, you rich snobs. She did a little victory dance, drawing amused looks from nearby guests. Despite everything, I laughed. My sister's joy was infectious. I'm just glad it's over. But Alex was quiet, staring after his mother with a troubled expression. Hey. I touched his arm gently. You okay? He turned to me, and I saw tears in his eyes again. I'm so sorry, Grace. I should have protected you from this. I should have known Mother would try something. You couldn't have known. Yes, I could have. This is who she is. This is who they all are. He gestured to the room full of glittering, judgmental strangers. I grew up in this world. I know how cruel it can be, and I brought you into it anyway. Alex, she was right about one thing, he continued, his voice raw. I barely knew you when I proposed. We rushed into this marriage, and I never stopped to think about what it would cost you. Your peace, your dignity, your... I put my finger on his lips, stopping the torrent of words. Alexander Whitmore, listen to me. I married you because I wanted to. Not because you pressured me, not because I was dazzled by your money, because I looked at you and saw someone kind, someone vulnerable, someone real in a world full of fake people. But my mother? Your mother tried to humiliate me, I said. She failed. And you know why? Because I'm not ashamed of where I came from. I'm proud of it. My mama, my public school, my state college nursing degree, all of it made me who I am, and I like who I am. A smile finally broke through his tears. I like who you are too. Good. Then let's get out of here. I glanced around at the opulent ballroom, the expensive gowns, the diamonds and champagne and carefully maintained appearances. I've had enough of high society for one night. Where do you want to go? Home. To our home. And then tomorrow, I'm going back to work at St. Mary's, because those people need me more than these people do. But as we turned to leave, a commotion near the entrance caught our attention. A man in an expensive suit was talking urgently to the master of ceremonies, gesturing toward the stage. The master of ceremonies looked shocked, then excited, then rushed to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. We have another surprise this evening. Alex groaned. What now? The man in the suit approached us, middle-aged, Asian, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He bowed slightly. Mrs. Whitmore, my name is Dr. Kenji Tanaka. I'm the director of the International Medical Exchange Program. My heart skipped. That was the program that had sent me to Japan 15 years ago. I apologize for the interruption. Dr. Tanaka continued. But when I heard you speak Japanese tonight, I had to confirm, are you Grace Morrison, who worked at Tokyo General in 2009? Yes, I said, confused. But how did you... I never forgot you. His smile was genuine, warm. You saved my daughter's life. The ballroom, which had started to buzz with conversation again, fell silent once more. Your daughter? I tried to remember, but I'd treated hundreds of patients during that year. Yuki. She was 8 years old. She came into the emergency room during a typhoon, severe asthma attack. Parents couldn't reach the hospital in time. You stayed with her all night. You held her hand, spoke to her in Japanese, kept her calm while she struggled to breathe. Slowly, the memory surfaced. A little girl with terrified eyes, gasping for air. I'd sat beside her bed for hours, telling her stories in broken Japanese, singing songs I'd learned from other nurses. Her parents had been stuck on the other side of the city. The trains shut down, and I wouldn't let her be alone. I remember, I whispered. Is she? She's fine. She's 23 now, finishing medical school at Keio University. She wants to be an emergency room doctor. Dr. Tanaka's eyes were bright with tears. Because of you? Because you showed her what compassion looks like. I felt my own tears coming. I was just doing my job. No, Doctor. Tanaka shook his head firmly. You went far beyond your job. My wife and I, we've tried to find you for years. To thank you. To tell you what a difference you made. When I heard your name tonight, and then heard you speak Japanese. He paused, composing himself. Yuki is here, in New York. She's attending a medical conference. Could she meet you? Before I could answer, a young woman appeared from the crowd. She had Dr. Tanaka's kind eyes and a smile that lit up her entire face. Mrs. Whitmore? Grace Sensei? The Japanese honorific for teacher hit me right in the chest. Yuki! I barely got the name out before she was hugging me, crying and laughing at the same time. You saved my life, she said in perfect English. And you gave me my purpose. Thank you. Thank you. The entire ballroom watched this reunion. Even Patricia's hardened friends seemed touched by the raw emotion on display. This wasn't society pageantry or calculated networking. This was real, human connection. Yuki pulled back, wiping her eyes. I'm sorry. I'm probably ruining your makeup. I don't care about makeup, I said, laughing through my tears. I can't believe you remember me. Remember you. Grace Sensei, you're the reason I survived that night. Not just physically. You made me feel safe when I was terrified. You sang to me. You told me about the Bronx and your mother and how brave women in your family are. She smiled. You told me that being scared didn't mean I wasn't strong. I had said that. I'd almost forgotten. Dr. Tanaka addressed the crowd, his voice carrying through the microphone someone had handed him. I came to this gala tonight as a representative of the International Medical Exchange Program. I was supposed to give a speech about the importance of cultural exchange in healthcare. But I think Grace has already demonstrated that better than any speech could. He turned to me. Grace Morrison, Grace Whitmore, you embody everything our program stands for. You didn't just learn languages as an academic exercise. You learned them to help people, to heal people, to see people as human beings first, regardless of where they came from. The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Here was a man praising me for the exact qualities Patricia had tried to shame me for: my nursing career, my humble background, my commitment to serving others. The International Medical Exchange Program would like to offer you a position, Dr. Tanaka continued, as our Director of Nursing Education. We need someone who can train the next generation of international nurses, someone who understands both the clinical skills and the cultural sensitivity required to truly help people across borders. I stared at him, shocked. I don't know what to say. Say yes! Jasmine shouted from somewhere in the crowd. Several people laughed. Alex squeezed my hand. It's your decision, Grace. But for what it's worth, I think you'd be incredible at it. I looked around the ballroom, at Yuki's hopeful face, at Dr. Tanaka's kind smile, at the crowd that had shifted from hostile judgment to genuine respect, at Patricia, standing with her friends, her expression unreadable. This was the moment where everything could change. I could take this job, prove myself on an international stage, force Patricia's world to accept me on my terms. Or I could decline, go back to St. Mary's emergency room, continue the quiet, important work I'd been doing for years. But before I could answer, Patricia stepped forward. The crowd parted for her like the Red Sea. She walked to the microphone, her face pale but composed. "I have something to say," she announced. "If you'll permit me." Oh God, what now? Alex tensed beside me, ready to intervene if his mother launched another attack. But I held up my hand, stopping him. Whatever Patricia had to say, I wanted to hear it. She stood at the microphone, this woman who had orchestrated my humiliation, who had tried to destroy me in front of New York's elite. For a long moment, she just looked at me. Then she spoke. "I owe you an apology, Grace." The room gasped. Patricia Whitmore did not apologize. Ever. "What I did tonight was cruel and inexcusable," she continued, her voice steady but strained. "I made assumptions about you based on your background. I thought I was protecting my son, but what I was really doing was—" She paused, seeming to struggle with the words. "I was being exactly the kind of person I've always claimed to despise." I couldn't speak. This was the last thing I'd expected. My husband, Alexander's father, came from money, but I didn't. Not the way people in this room define it. Patricia's eyes swept across her friends, many of whom looked shocked. My father was a plumber. My mother was a secretary. I grew up in Queens, not Manhattan. And when I married into the Whitmore family, I was treated exactly the way I treated you tonight. The revelations kept coming, each one more surprising than the last. I learned to speak French, to dress correctly, to say the right things and know the right people. I erased my past because I was told it wasn't good enough. And somewhere along the way, I became the very people who had made me feel small. Her voice cracked slightly. I became them. And tonight, I tried to make you into what I was forced to become. Tears were streaming down Patricia's face now, ruining her perfect makeup. But you're not like me, Grace. You didn't let them change you. You stood up here and spoke 5 languages, and you didn't do it to prove you belonged in our world. You did it because learning those languages meant you could help more people, heal more people. She looked at Yuki, who was still standing beside me. You saved this young woman's life. You've probably saved hundreds of lives. And what have I done? I've thrown parties. I've raised money for charities while looking down on the very people those charities are meant to help. Patricia turned back to me. You don't need to fit into this world, Grace. This world needs to change to deserve someone like you. The silence was absolute. Even the waiters had stopped moving. I can't undo what I've done tonight, Patricia continued. But I can tell you this. I was wrong. About you. About what matters. About everything. She stepped away from the microphone, walked directly to me, and extended her hand. I'm sorry. And I understand if you can't forgive me. I looked at her hand, pale, perfectly manicured, trembling slightly. Then I looked at her face and saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine remorse. For a moment, I just stood there. Part of me wanted to reject her apology, to let her feel the sting of rejection the way she'd made me feel it. Part of me was still furious at the deliberate cruelty of what she'd planned tonight. But I thought about my mama's voice. Baby girl, everybody got their own pain. Hurt people, but healing people heal people too. I took Patricia's hand, not in a handshake, but pulling her into a hug. She gasped, surprised, then broke down completely, sobbing against my shoulder. This powerful society matron, this queen of New York's elite, crying like a child in my arms. I'm sorry, she kept repeating. I'm so sorry. I know, I whispered. I forgive you. The ballroom erupted in applause again, but this time it was different. It wasn't applause for a performance or a dramatic revelation. It was applause for something real, something human, for forgiveness, for redemption, for 2 women from similar humble backgrounds finally finding common ground. When Patricia pulled back, her makeup was completely ruined. Her carefully constructed facade shattered, but she looked more real than I'd ever seen her. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," I said, "because holding on to anger only hurts me, and because—" I hesitated, then continued. "Because you're my family now, whether either of us likes it or not." A watery laugh escaped her. "I think I'm starting to like it." Alex had tears streaming down his face. He pulled both of us into a hug, this broken family beginning to heal. But Dr. Tanaka was still waiting for an answer. He approached us gently, not wanting to intrude on the moment. "Grace, I don't need an answer tonight. The position will be waiting if you want it, but I hope you'll consider it." I looked at Alex. "What do you think?" "I think," he said carefully, "that you should do whatever makes you happy. If you want to keep working at St. Mary's, I support that. If you want to take this international position, I support that too. I'll support whatever you choose." "But what about your work?" I asked. "Your business is here in New York. The real estate empire." Alex shook his head. "Grace, I have managers who can handle the day-to-day operations, and honestly," he glanced around the ballroom, at the wealth and privilege and carefully maintained pretenses, "I'm tired of this world too. Maybe we both need something different." Patricia spoke up. "Alexander, if you're worried about the business, don't be. I can take a more active role. God knows I have enough free time, and maybe it's time I did something actually useful instead of just attending parties." She looked at me. "Grace, if you take this position, you'll be helping people all over the world. Training nurses who will save lives, just like you saved Yuki. That's more important than any real estate deal or society function." I turned to Yuki, who'd been watching this entire exchange with wide eyes. "What made you decide to become a doctor?" I asked her. "You did," she said simply. "That night in the hospital, I was so scared, I thought I was going to die. But you held my hand and you told me." She paused, remembering. "You said, sometimes the bravest thing we can do is just keep breathing, one breath at a time. And then, when we're strong enough, we help others breathe too." I remembered saying that. I'd been trying to calm her down, to help her focus on her breathing during the asthma attack. Those words stayed with me, Yuki continued. All through school, through medical training. Whenever things got hard, I remembered. Just keep breathing, and then help others breathe. She smiled. "Now I want to be there for scared children the way you were there for me." Looking at her face, this young woman who'd survived, who'd thrived, who was going to save countless lives herself, I knew what my answer had to be. "Dr. Tanaka," I said, "I accept your offer." Jasmine let out a whoop of joy. Alex kissed me. Patricia smiled, a real smile this time, warm and genuine, and Dr. Tanaka bowed deeply. "The program is honored to have you," he said. "We'll work out all the details, but essentially you'd be based in New York, with travel to our partner hospitals around the world. You'll train nurses, develop curricula, share your expertise." "And I can still work at St. Mary's part-time?" I asked. "Absolutely. We wouldn't want you to lose touch with clinical practice. That's what makes you valuable. You're not just an administrator, you're a working nurse who understands the real challenges." It was perfect. A way to keep doing what I loved while expanding my impact beyond just one emergency room in the Bronx. The Master of Ceremonies returned to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, what an extraordinary evening this has been. I think we can all agree that the Metropolitan Charity Gala will be remembered for years to come." Laughter rippled through the crowd. That was an understatement. As the official program ended and the gala transitioned to dinner and dancing, people began approaching me, not with the hostile curiosity from earlier, but with genuine interest and respect. Margaret Vanderberg, the woman who'd insulted me earlier, was one of the first. She looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Whitmore, I owe you an apology as well. What I said earlier was completely inappropriate." "Thank you," I said graciously. "And please, call me Grace." Others followed. Society matrons wanting to know about my nursing work, businessmen interested in the International Medical Exchange Program, young people inspired by the idea that education could come from anywhere, not just prestigious schools. But the most surprising visitor came near the end of the evening. A young woman in her 20s, black like me, wearing a simple dress that stood out among the designer gowns. She approached hesitantly, as if afraid I might turn her away. "Mrs. Whitmore, I'm sorry to bother you." "You're not bothering me," I said warmly. "What's your name?" "Keisha. Keisha Johnson." She glanced around nervously. "I'm not supposed to be here. I mean, I'm working the coat check. But I heard what happened in the ballroom and I had to tell you something." I took her hand, pulling her aside from the crowd. "What is it?" "I'm in nursing school," she said, the words tumbling out in a rush. "Community college in Brooklyn. It's hard. I work 2 jobs to pay for it. And sometimes I think about quitting because it feels impossible. Like I'll never be good enough, you know? Like people will always see where I came from before they see what I can do." My heart ached with recognition. I knew exactly what she meant. "But tonight," Keisha continued, tears filling her eyes, "when I heard you up there, speaking all those languages, talking about your public school education and your state college degree, you made me feel like maybe I can do this. Maybe I can be a good nurse even if I didn't go to some fancy school." I pulled her into a hug. "Keisha, listen to me. The best nurses I know learned their skills from experience, not just textbooks. They learned compassion from hardship, not privilege. You're going to be an excellent nurse because you understand what it means to struggle." "Really?" "Really." I pulled out one of Alex's business cards and wrote my phone number on the back. "Call me. I want to help. Maybe I can arrange a scholarship through the International Medical Exchange Program. Or, at the very least, I can be a mentor." Keisha stared at the card like it was made of gold. "You'd do that. For me. For you, and for every other student who thinks they're not good enough because they didn't have advantages. You are good enough, Keisha. Don't ever forget that." She left clutching that card, hope shining in her eyes, and I felt something shift inside me. This was why I'd become a nurse. Not for nights like this, with champagne and diamonds and speeches, but for moments like this, one person helping another, one hand reaching down to pull someone up. Alex found me standing alone, watching Keisha disappear into the crowd. "You okay?" "Better than okay," I said. "I just remembered why I do this work." "What happened?" I told him about Keisha, about her struggles and her dreams. Alex listened quietly, then said, "What if we started a foundation, through the Whitmore family, for nursing students from underserved communities?" I looked at him in surprise. "You'd do that?" "Grace, my family has more money than we could spend in 10 lifetimes. It's just sitting there, earning interest, funding society parties." He glanced toward his mother, who was deep in conversation with Dr. Tanaka. Maybe it's time the Whitmore Foundation actually lived up to its name. Let's fund something that matters. Over the next hour, as the gala wound down, Alex and Patricia worked together sketching out ideas for the nursing scholarship program. Watching them collaborate, really collaborate, without the tension and resentment that had defined their relationship for years, was almost as surprising as everything else that had happened tonight. "We could start with 10 full scholarships," Patricia said, writing notes on a napkin. "A full tuition, books, living expenses, for students pursuing nursing degrees. And we could partner with the International Medical Exchange Program," Alex added. "Give scholarship recipients opportunities to study abroad, like Grace did." Dr. Tanaka joined their discussion enthusiastically. "This would be transformative. So many talented students can't afford to participate in exchange programs. This could change that." Jasmine leaned close to me, whispering, "Is this real? Did your evil mother-in-law just become a good guy?" "People aren't good or bad, Jazz," I said. "They're just people. Complicated, flawed, capable of change." "That's very philosophical of you. I'm still mad at her for what she did earlier." "I know. But holding on to anger doesn't help anyone." Jasmine shook her head, smiling. "You're a better person than me, Gracie." "No, I just had a better teacher." I thought of Mama, who'd raised 2 daughters alone, who'd worked herself to exhaustion, who'd never let hardship make her bitter. Mama always said that forgiveness is the gift you give yourself. Mama also said that some people need a good smack upside the head, Jasmine pointed out. I laughed. She did say that too. As midnight approached, guests began leaving. Many stopped to congratulate me, to share their own stories, to express how moved they'd been by the evening's events. Even people who'd been coldly dismissive earlier now seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. But not everyone was pleased. I noticed a cluster of Patricia's old friends leaving together, their faces tight with disapproval. Change was coming to their carefully ordered world, and they didn't like it. "And let them go," Patricia said, appearing at my side. She'd been watching the same group. Those friendships were always transactional anyway, based on social status, not real connection. She paused. "I'm realizing I don't have many real friends. Most of my relationships are performative." "That must be lonely," I said. "It is." Patricia looked at me. "I wonder if, well, this is presumptuous, but I wonder if you might be willing to, that is, could we perhaps have coffee sometime?" I finished for her. She looked relieved. "Yes, just coffee, just talking. I'd like to get to know you, the real you, not the version I invented in my head." "I'd like that," I said honestly. Alex appeared with our coats. "Ready to go home?" I looked around the opulent ballroom one last time, at the chandeliers and champagne, the designer gowns and diamonds, the world I'd stepped into tonight as an outsider and was leaving as... what? I wasn't sure yet, but I knew I'd never be the same. "Yeah," I said. "I'm ready." The ride home was quiet. Jasmine had left earlier with some new friends she'd made, young socialites fascinated by her bold personality and unfiltered opinions. Alex and I sat in the back of the car, my head on his shoulder, both of us processing everything that had happened. "I can't believe my mother apologized," Alex said finally. "In 23 years, I've never heard her admit she was wrong about anything." "She's been carrying that pain for a long time," I said, "about her own background, about changing herself to fit in. Tonight, seeing me refuse to do the same, maybe it helped her realize what she'd lost." "You're very understanding." "I'm a nurse. Understanding people is part of the job." I smiled up at him. "Besides, she's your mother, and now she's my mother-in-law. We have to figure out how to make this work." "I love you," Alex said suddenly, intensely. "God, Grace, I love you so much. The way you handled everything tonight. The grace under pressure, the compassion even when you had every right to be angry. Hey," I touched his face gently. "I'm not perfect. I was angry. I'm still a little angry. But staying angry doesn't help anyone." When we got home to our penthouse, I immediately kicked off my heels. "Thank God. Those things are torture devices." Alex laughed. "You want some tea? I could make tea." "You don't know how to make tea." "I could learn." I kissed him. "Yes, please make tea. And while you're figuring out the kettle, I'm going to change into real clothes." In our bedroom, I carefully removed the burgundy gown and hung it up. It was beautiful, but I'd never felt like myself in it. I put on yoga pants and one of Alex's old college sweatshirts, immediately feeling more comfortable. When I returned to the kitchen, Alex had somehow managed to make tea without burning down the penthouse. We sat together on the couch overlooking the city lights, sipping chamomile and decompressing. "So," Alex said, "the International Medical Exchange Program. Are you excited?" "Terrified," I admitted. "But yes, excited too. It's a chance to make a real difference." "You already make a real difference? Every day at St. Mary's?" "I know, but this is bigger. A chance to impact nursing education globally, to help students like Keisha." I paused. "Students like I was." Alex set down his tea. "Tell me about it. Your education. You've never really talked about how you learned all those languages." So I told him. About the magnet school I'd gotten into on a full scholarship, where I'd felt out of place among richer kids but had thrown myself into learning. About the teachers who'd seen my potential and pushed me. About the nights studying by streetlight because our electricity had been shut off. About the year in Japan, living in a tiny apartment, eating ramen every day, soaking up everything I could about their healthcare system. "I've never told you this," I continued, "but there were times I almost quit. Times when it felt impossible. When I was taking care of Mama because she was sick, and Jazz was still in high school, and I was working night shifts and going to nursing school during the day." I took a shaky breath. "I was so tired, Alex. So tired of struggling." "What kept you going?" he asked softly. "Mama." She'd say, "Baby, tired is temporary. Quitting is forever." And then she'd make me sweet potato pie and tell me stories about her own mama, my grandmother, who'd been a sharecropper's daughter and had somehow managed to send all her kids to school. I smiled at the memory. We come from a long line of stubborn women who refuse to give up. I'm grateful for that. Alex said. Because if you'd given up, we never would have met. That night, I slept better than I had in months. No nightmares about the gala, no replaying Patricia's cruel words. Just peaceful, dreamless sleep with Alex beside me. The next morning, my phone started ringing at 7 a.m. Jasmine calling. Grace, have you seen the news? Jazz, I just woke up. You're viral. Like, actually, viral. Someone recorded the whole thing at the gala and posted it online. It's everywhere. I sat up, suddenly wide awake. What? Check Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Everyone's talking about the billionaire's wife who speaks 5 languages. There are think pieces, reaction videos, everything. Alex was already on his laptop. He turned it toward me, and I saw my own face, frozen at the moment I started speaking French. The video had millions of views. The comments were overwhelming. She's my new hero. This is what real education looks like. The way she handled that mother-in-law. Queen. As a first-generation student, this made me cry. But there were negative comments, too. Showing off much. Bet she planned this whole thing for attention. Rich people problems. I scrolled through, feeling overwhelmed. This was supposed to be a private event, a family matter. Now millions of strangers were watching the worst and best moments of my life. Grace? Alex touched my shoulder. You okay? I don't know. This feels invasive. We can sue whoever posted the video. No. I shook my head. I mean, yes, it's invasive. But look at these comments. Look at how many people are saying this inspired them. I pointed to a comment from a young woman. I'm a Latina nursing student who almost quit. This video reminded me why I started. Thank you. How could I be angry about that? My phone rang again. This time it was Dr. Tanaka. Grace, I hope I'm not calling too early. Have you seen the response online? Just starting to process it. The International Medical Exchange Program has received 200 applications for nursing positions in the last hour alone. Our website crashed. People want to donate, want to volunteer, want to be part of what you talked about last night. 200 applications? I repeated, stunned. And counting? This video, Grace, you've sparked something. A conversation about education, about access, about who gets to be in elite spaces and why. Dr. Tanaka's excitement was palpable even over the phone. I know this isn't what you expected, but could you possibly come to our offices today? We need to capitalize on this momentum. After we hung up, I sat staring at my phone. Messages were flooding in, from old nursing school classmates, from patients I'd treated years ago, from complete strangers thanking me for inspiring them. One message stood out. It was from Keisha, the coat check girl from last night. Mrs. Whitmore, because of you and the video. 3 different scholarship programs have reached out to me. 3. I'm crying. Thank you for giving me hope. I showed Alex the message. This is real. This is actually changing people's lives. So what do you want to do? I thought about it. The privacy invasion was real. The discomfort of having strangers dissect my life was real. But so was the potential to help people. I want to use it, I decided. If the world is paying attention, let's make sure they hear the right message. Not about me, but about education access, about nursing, about all the talented people who get overlooked because they don't fit someone's idea of what success looks like. By noon, I was at the International Medical Exchange Program offices, meeting with their communications team. By evening, I'd done 3 interviews, with a nursing journal, a major newspaper, and a podcast about education equity. In each interview, I tried to shift focus away from the dramatic confrontation and toward the real issue, access to education. The story isn't that I speak 5 languages, I told the podcast host. The story is that millions of talented students never get the chance to develop their potential because they can't afford it, or because people like Patricia, people who should know better, judge them based on their zip code instead of their abilities. The host leaned forward. Patricia Whitmore has released a statement, by the way. Have you seen it? I hadn't. She pulled it up on her computer, and I read Patricia's words. Last night, I made a terrible mistake born from my own insecurities and prejudices. Grace Whitmore showed me, and the world, what true class and education look like. They're not about money or prestigious schools. They're about compassion, dedication, and the courage to keep learning and growing even when the world tries to keep you small. I am using this as an opportunity to examine my own biases and to do better. The Whitmore Foundation will be launching a new scholarship program for nursing students from underserved communities. And I will personally be working to dismantle the barriers that keep talented people out of spaces they deserve to occupy. I am deeply sorry for my behavior, and deeply grateful to Grace for her forgiveness and her example. The statement had its own viral moment. People were divided. Some praised Patricia's honesty, others said it wasn't enough, that she was only apologizing because she got caught on video. I didn't care about the online debate. What mattered was whether Patricia meant it, and that would only be proven with time and action. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The Whitmore Foundation Scholarship Program officially launched with 20 full scholarships in the first year. Applications poured in from nursing students across the country, first-generation students, immigrants, single parents, people who'd been told they weren't college material. Reading their essays broke my heart and put it back together again. One applicant, Maria, wrote, "My mother cleans houses like Grace's mother did. She told me to dream small so I wouldn't be disappointed. But after seeing Grace's video, I'm dreaming big. I want to be a nurse. I want to help people. I want to prove that we belong everywhere." Another, James, wrote, "I'm a 35-year-old man trying to change careers from construction to nursing. People laugh when I tell them. They say nursing is for women, or that I'm too old, or that someone like me, black, from the projects, with a GED, can't cut it in medical school. Grace's story reminded me that the only person who gets to define my potential is me." I cried reading that one. Then I personally called James to tell him he'd been selected for a scholarship. Patricia threw herself into the foundation work with surprising dedication. She interviewed scholarship candidates personally, visited nursing schools in underserved areas, met with administrators to discuss barriers to education. "I'm trying to understand," she told me over coffee one morning. We'd started having weekly coffee dates, slowly building a real relationship, how I became so blind to the struggles of people outside my bubble. "It's easy to be blind when you're comfortable," I said. "And that's why these conversations matter." "I've been thinking," Patricia said carefully, "about my friends, the society women. Most of them have completely cut me off after the gala. I'm sorry." "Don't be, I'm not." She smiled, and it reached her eyes this time. "I'm realizing those friendships were hollow anyway, based on maintaining appearances, not on real connection. Losing them showed me what I was missing, which is purpose. For years, I've filled my days with luncheons and galas and shopping trips. But what was it all for? To maintain a lifestyle. To prove I belonged in a world that never really wanted me." She shook her head. "Working on this scholarship program, reading these applications, meeting these students, it's the first time in decades I've felt like I'm doing something that matters." I reached across the table and took her hand. "You are doing something that matters. These students' lives are changing because of you." "Because of us," Patricia corrected. "I wouldn't be here without your example. Our relationship wasn't perfect. We still had disagreements, moments of tension when her old prejudices or my old hurt surfaced. But we were trying, both of us, to build something real." 3 months after the gala, the International Medical Exchange Program held its first training seminar under my direction. 25 nurses from around the world gathered in New York to learn about cultural competency in healthcare, language skills for medical professionals, and strategies for providing compassionate care across cultural divides. Yuki was one of the instructors, teaching a session on pediatric emergency medicine. Watching her present, confident, knowledgeable, passionate, I felt overwhelming pride. The scared little girl from Tokyo had become a doctor who would save countless lives. During lunch break, she pulled me aside. "Grace Sensei, I want to tell you something. My father, Dr. Tanaka, he's been offered a position in Tokyo, director of the largest teaching hospital in Japan." "Yuki, that's wonderful." "Yes, but..." She hesitated. "It means the International Medical Exchange Program might lose him as director here, unless..." She looked at me meaningfully. It took me a moment to understand. "Unless I take over as director, you'd be perfect for it. Everyone thinks so. My father, the board, all the partner organizations." Yuki's eyes shone with excitement. "You could shape the entire program, expand it, help thousands of nurses, not just in New York, but globally." The magnitude of the opportunity and the responsibility hit me like a wave. That evening, I talked it over with Alex. We sat in our usual spot on the couch, Chinese takeout boxes between us, the city lights glittering below. It would mean more travel, I said, visiting partner hospitals around the world, less time at St. Mary's. But more impact, Alex pointed out. Grace, you'd be affecting healthcare education on a global scale. I know, but I'm scared. What if I'm not ready? What if I fail? Alex set down his chopsticks and took my hands. You were not ready when you went to Japan at 27. You were not ready when you married me. You were not ready at that gala. And yet, every single time, you rose to the challenge. This is different. No, it's not. It's the same pattern, Grace. The world underestimates you, you doubt yourself for a moment, and then you prove everyone, including yourself, wrong. He smiled. Take the position. You're more than ready. I thought about Mama, who'd pushed me to dream bigger than our circumstances suggested possible. About the teachers who'd seen potential in a girl from the Bronx. About Dr. Tanaka and Yuki, who believed I could do this. About the scholarship students who looked at me and saw possibility. Okay, I said. I'll do it. Alex kissed me. That's my girl. The next day, I accepted the position as director of the International Medical Exchange Program. The press release generated another wave of media attention, more interviews, more opportunities to talk about education access and healthcare equity. But the moment that mattered most came 2 weeks later, when the first cohort of Whitmore Foundation scholarship recipients attended their orientation. 20 students, diverse in every way possible, gathered in a conference room at the foundation offices. They were nervous, excited, overwhelmed. I saw myself in every single one of them. Patricia and I co-hosted the orientation. She spoke first, her voice steady but emotional. Welcome to the Whitmore Foundation Nursing Scholarship Program. You are here because you are talented, dedicated, and deserving. But more than that, you are here because we believe that access to education should never be determined by the circumstances of your birth. She paused, looking at each student. Many of you come from backgrounds similar to mine, similar to Grace's. You've been told you don't belong in certain spaces, that your dreams are too big, that people like you don't become professionals. Her voice strengthened. Those people are wrong, and we're going to prove it together. The students erupted in applause. I saw Keisha in the front row, crying happy tears. Then it was my turn. I'm not going to give you a traditional welcome speech, I began. Instead, I want to tell you something my mama told me when I was about your age, struggling through nursing school, wondering if I could really do this. I looked around the room. She said, "Baby girl, they're going to doubt you. They're going to make assumptions about you based on your skin color, your address, your parents' jobs, your accent, all the things that have nothing to do with what's in your brain and your heart. And when they doubt you, you have two choices. You can believe them or you can prove them wrong." Heads nodded around the room. You all chose to prove them wrong. That's why you're here. And over the next 4 years, there will be moments when you doubt yourselves. When the coursework is hard, when someone makes you feel like you don't belong, when you're exhausted from working 2 jobs while going to school. In those moments, I want you to remember 3 things. I held up one finger. First, you belong here. Period. Not because we're giving you charity, but because you earned this through your own merit and determination. Second finger. Second, education isn't just about acquiring knowledge. It's about becoming someone who can help others. Every difficult class, every long night studying, it's all in service of the people you'll care for someday. Third finger. Third, you are not alone. This isn't just a scholarship program. It's a community. We support each other. We lift each other up. When one of us succeeds, we all succeed. I smiled at them. Now, let's get to know each other. I want to hear your stories, where you're from, why you want to be nurses, what you hope to accomplish. For the next 3 hours, we shared stories. Keisha talked about growing up in foster care and wanting to give children the compassionate care she'd never received. Maria spoke about her immigrant mother's sacrifices. James described his awakening after volunteering at a community health clinic. Each story was different, but they all shared common threads: resilience, hope, determination. 6 months into my new role as director of the International Medical Exchange Program, I traveled to Tokyo for a conference on global nursing education. Yuki met me at the airport, and we spent the weekend touring hospitals, meeting nursing students, and discussing how to expand the program in Japan. On my last night there, Dr. Tanaka hosted a dinner at his home. His wife, Akiko, had prepared a beautiful meal. Yuki was there with her fiancé, a pediatrician she'd met during residency. It felt like coming home to family. Grace Sensei, Yuki said during dinner, using the honorific she'd never dropped. I have something to tell you. I'm pregnant. The table erupted in joy. Hugs, tears, congratulations. And, Yuki continued, glowing with happiness, if it's a girl, we want to name her Grace. After you. I couldn't speak. Tears streamed down my face. You saved my life, Yuki said softly. Now I want my daughter to carry your name so she'll always know about the woman who taught her mother that being scared doesn't mean you're not brave. That night, lying in my hotel room, I thought about the chain of connections that had brought me to this moment. A little girl in Tokyo, gasping for breath. A nurse from the Bronx, holding her hand through the night. And now, years later, a new generation being named after that moment of connection. This was what nursing meant. Not just the medical interventions, but the human connections. The way one act of compassion could ripple forward through time, touching lives in ways you'd never know about. I called Alex, even though it was early morning in New York. Hey, I said when he answered sleepily. Did I wake you? It's okay. Everything all right? Everything's perfect. Yuki's pregnant. She's naming the baby after me if it's a girl. Alex was quiet for a moment. Then, Grace, you've changed so many lives. Do you realize that? I'm just doing my job. No, you're doing so much more than that. His voice was thick with emotion. I'm so proud of you, so incredibly proud. I miss you, I said. Miss you too. But this is important work you're doing. I can handle a few days without you. Speaking of which, I've been thinking about the foundation. What if we expanded the scholarship program to include international students? Bring nurses from developing countries to train in the USE, then send them back to improve healthcare in their communities? I love that idea. Let's make it happen. We talked for another hour, planning, dreaming, imagining all the ways we could make a difference. When we finally hung up, I felt a deep sense of contentment. This was my life now. Not the life I'd imagined when I was a struggling nursing student in the Bronx, but something better. Something I'd built through hard work, through refusing to accept other people's limitations, through believing I deserved a seat at tables where I wasn't initially welcome. Part 25, 500 Palabras. A year after the gala, the night that changed everything, Patricia suggested we host an anniversary event. Not a society gala this time, but a celebration for the scholarship recipients and program participants. No fancy ballroom, she insisted. No champagne and caviar, just real people, real food, real conversation. We held it at St. Mary's Hospital, in the same emergency room where I'd met Alex. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. The scholarship students came, along with nurses from the exchange program, my colleagues from St. Mary's, Dr. Tanaka and Yuki, now visibly pregnant, Jasmine, and even some of Patricia's old society friends, the ones who'd stuck by her through her transformation. Mama was there too, in her Sunday best, beaming with pride. She pulled me aside at one point. Baby girl, look at all this. Look at what you built. We built it, Mama. You taught me everything that matters. I taught you to work hard and be kind. You did the rest. She cupped my face in her hands, the way she had when I was little. Your daddy would be so proud. My father had died when I was 12. A construction accident that had left Mama alone with 2 young daughters. I didn't remember much about him, but I remembered his hands, calloused and strong, and the way he'd called me, mi princesa. I wish he could see this, I whispered. He can, baby. He can. Alex found me wiping tears and wrapped his arms around me. Mama smiled at both of us. You found a good man, Gracie. Took you long enough, but you found him. Hey, Alex protested, laughing. I found her. Keep telling yourself that. But Mama's eyes were twinkling. Patricia approached our little group hesitantly. She and Mama had met a few times, but their relationship was still cautious, both women navigating their shared history of struggle and their very different present circumstances. Mrs. Morrison, Patricia said formally. Thank you for coming. Call me Elena, Mama said. Then, surprising us all. She pulled Patricia into a hug. Thank you for loving my daughter. Took you a while to get there, but better late than never. Patricia's eyes welled up. I don't deserve her forgiveness. Probably not, Mama agreed bluntly. But she gave it anyway, because that's how I raised her. Now you got to earn it. Every day. You understand? Yes, ma'am. Good. Mama released her. Now you and me, we're going to have coffee sometime. Real coffee, not that fancy stuff. And we're going to talk about these grandchildren I'm expecting. Both Alex and I choked. Mama? What? You've been married over a year. I'm 63 years old. I want to meet my grandchildren before I'm too old to enjoy them. Patricia laughed. A real laugh, warm and genuine. I like your mother, Grace. She's terrifying, but I like her. That's the nicest thing anyone said about me in years, Mama declared. As the evening wound down, I found myself standing in the same emergency room bay where I'd first met Alex. The equipment had been updated, but the space was essentially the same. I could still see him lying on that gurney, terrified and alone, holding my hand like it was a lifeline. Thinking about that night, Alex appeared beside me. Yeah, if someone had told me then that in 2 years I'd be married to you, running an international nursing program and hosting events with your mother, I shook my head. I never would have believed it. Best panic attack I ever had, Alex joked. I laughed, leaning into him. The way you tell it, I saved you that night. But you know what? You saved me too. How do you figure? Before I met you, I was so focused on just surviving, getting through each shift, paying bills, taking care of Mama and Jazz. I'd stopped dreaming big. I gestured around us. All of this, happened because you believed I could do more than just survive. You believed I could thrive. You were always going to thrive, Grace. I just got to watch it happen. Looking around at the celebration, at students who were getting opportunities they'd been told they didn't deserve, at nurses from around the world connecting and learning from each other, at Patricia laughing with my mother, at Jasmine holding court with a group of young scholarship recipients, I felt overwhelming gratitude. This was the life I'd built, not the life I'd been handed, not the life anyone expected from a girl from the Bronx, but mine, created through determination, education, compassion, and refusing to accept other people's limitations. Patricia called for everyone's attention. I'd like to propose a toast, she announced, raising her glass of sparkling cider, to Grace Whitmore, who taught me that true class has nothing to do with money or pedigree, who showed me that education is about what you do with it, not where you got it, who reminded me that the measure of a person is how they treat others when nobody's watching. She looked directly at me. Grace, you walked into my world, and instead of changing yourself to fit it, you changed the world itself. Thank you for your patience, your forgiveness, and your example. Everyone raised their glasses. To Grace. But I shook my head, raising my own glass. No. To everyone in this room who's been told they don't belong somewhere and went there anyway. To every student who's working 2 jobs while going to school. To every nurse who holds a stranger's hand in their darkest moment. To every mother who sacrifices so her children can dream bigger. To everyone who refuses to stay small just because someone else is comfortable with them that way. I looked at each face, students, nurses, family, friends, to us, and to the revolution we're building. One act of compassion at a time. To us, the room echoed. And in that moment, surrounded by love and hope and possibility, I understood something fundamental. You don't have to be born into the right world. Sometimes, you can build a better one yourself.